So we're officially ready to rock and roll for week 3, and we are starting with my weekly NFL power rankings heading into week 3. I'm excited. A lot of crazy things happened last week. The Niners, and the Rams are looking like a much better team than we expected. You're seeing the Bills getting back on track, the Bengals and the Jets, and I'd say really like the Bengals and the Chargers are really two teams that are collapsing. You're kind of like, what's going on? So let's not waste too much more of your time. I'd like to get right into these power rankings. But if you do enjoy NFL content like this, weekly power rankings, weekly predictions, I even post some highlights, here and there, Colts content. So make sure you like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. Now it's time to get into our rankings. Number 32, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Looked good in the first half. I thought the Cardinals were going to win it. I was really questioning how bad the New York Giants really are. But the Arizona Cardinals couldn't hold on. Played very poorly in the second half. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and that offense really took it to the Cardinals in the second half. So I don't see any need for the Cardinals. I don't see any need to move the Cardinals here from 32. 31, you have the Chicago Bears. The Bears have been pretty disappointing, especially the Bears fans throughout the season. I was one of those people looking at the Bears. I'm like, maybe they could be a good team. It depends on Justin Fields. Is Justin Fields going to take that next step, or is he going to continue to look like the Justin Fields that we have known so far? And he has looked like the Justin Fields that we have known so far. It doesn't look like Justin Fields is the answer. This is heading to his third year. There's things that he's still not doing right. He's not seeing the field well. He's just, he's holding on to the ball too long, and a lot of these things come with experience, but I just don't see it in Justin Fields. I don't think, these are things that would have been corrected by now if Fields was going to be that guy. Obviously, his running ability, he has elite running ability, elite athleticism, but he is way below average in terms of passing the football and quarterbacking, being a quarterback. And the defense not looking good. Offensive line is slow. They can't block anyone. The Bears are one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and I'm not sure if that's going to change. Number 30, you have the Houston Texans. They really looked pretty bad against the Colts. They did come on late and looked like they maybe had a shot to maybe come back in that one. And, they did climb their back. They did climb their way back into it. Kyle Barron did miss a field goal at the end, and then the defense just couldn't hold on. They just couldn't get another stop. Kyle Barron missed the field goal, so that kept it a two-possession game. But all in all, the Colts really took it to the Texans this game. Late in the game, like I said, the Texans did come. They did come back. They were climbing back into it, but ultimately did not have enough. The Colts were just too much for the Texans. Number 29, we have the Denver. But I do expect the Texans to get better as the season goes on. But if the offensive line can't get better, then maybe not, because I do think, C.J. Stroud looked phenomenal. You have really good weapons. He has some nice weapons. Tank Dell, DJ Moore. No, not DJ Moore. That's the Bears. You have Tank Dell. Nico Collins had a really nice week. John Mechie. You have Robert Woods. You have these weapons, but you have no offensive line. The defense couldn't get any pressure on, Anthony Richardson or Gardner Minshew. No sacks on the day, but they allowed like 6 sacks on the day. So if you can't protect your quarterback and then you can't get after the opposing team's quarterback, it's going to be a long day for you. Number 29 and 28, didn't feel any need to move the Broncos or the Panthers, but 29, the Broncos, they start out the games really hot. First half, they look dominant. Second half, they just completely fall apart. So maybe they should have been moved down more. Maybe they belong at 30 and Texans belong at 29. But, either way, the Broncos and the Texans are not a very good football team right now. Although, the Broncos do have, we were expecting the Broncos to have a decent defense, but, especially in that second half, the Commanders making some big-time clutch plays. Sam Howell looking pretty good, running for some first downs as well. This Denver Broncos team, as Colin Cowherd said, I'm not a fan of, I used to like Colin Cowherd a lot. I don't like him as much anymore. I don't like a lot of his takes. I think a lot of his takes are very lazy, but I will agree with him in the fact that Russell Wilson has lost his mojo. Russell Wilson isn't really what he is, and throughout the offseason, I'm saying you can only you can't turn the time back that much. Is Russell Wilson going to look like the old Russell Wilson? I never thought so. I even had him very low in my power rankings. And speaking of my ranks for quarterbacks, I had Bryce Young right ahead of Russell Wilson in my quarterback power rankings. But the Carolina Panthers, They stuck in it. They stuck in it the entire football game. Just couldn't pull it out. Bryce Young looked like he's gonna have. He's struggling a little bit, but to be fair, he doesn't have many weapons. I will say Adam Thielen is a really nice veteran piece for Bryce Young to learn with. Other than that, Jonathan Mingo is still young. You do have, you do have DJ Chark, but not really the weapons that you'd hope for your young quarterback. I do like DJ Chark, and these guys can be good. This can be a good receiver room, but it's very difficult to know when Bryce Young can't even get the ball off. No time for the quarterback. The Saints were almost in at Bryce Young immediately. Cameron Jordan had himself quite a night. The Panthers' offensive line could not hold up, which in terms did not help Bryce Young at all. So I kept the Panthers at 28. Didn't feel the need to move them. I thought some teams just moved up, some teams just moved down. It's just the way the board fell this week. A lot of big time movers as well. Number 27, we have the Indianapolis Colts. I moved the Colts up 4 spots. The Colts looked pretty good against the Texans. Now I don't expect the secondary really struggled, but this seemed like a defense that can be they were clutch and they made some big time plays. They could be a playmaking defense, get a few interceptions, some sacks, but maybe maybe force some fumbles. But this Colts team is not really, I don't think this Colts team is great, but we just saw versus the Texans. They played really well versus the Texans, and this is a weekly thing. We do it every week because things change weekly and crazy things happen. But mainly in the in the early weeks, there's a lot more movement. But the Colts move up to number 27. Anthony Richardson came in there, and he looked really good out of the gate. But then he's gonna have to start protecting himself. Gardner Minshew comes in, and Gardner Minshew looked really good. I don't think it's really surprising that Gardner Minshew looked better passing the ball. We know how inexperienced Anthony Richardson is, and he has a long way to go in terms of quarterbacking, but in terms of running the football and just as an electric playmaker, he is light years ahead of Minshew. But the Colts come away with the win, a pretty convincing win. Like I said when I talked about the Texans, the Texans did climb back into it, but the Colts were up 28-10 at half. They did score a field goal in the second half, and that was it. But the defense did enough, and the offense was able to run the ball and kind of chew that clock away, and the Colts take the win. So the Colts went up to 27. The Las Vegas Raiders moved down 2 spots to number 26. Raiders got beat pretty good against the Buffalo Bills. It looks like Josh Allen was back, but Jimmy Garoppolo and this offense couldn't really get much going other than, the first drive they went right down the field and they scored a touchdown. A few nice throws to Devontae Adams from Jimmy Garoppolo. Other than that, couldn't really get it going. I think Josh Jacobs, actually had negative yards in this game. Could not get the run game going. The offensive line not very impressive, especially you're playing one of the better defensive lines in football. The Bills have a very deep and talented defensive line, and Von Miller isn't even on that line right now yet. So, the Raiders, not a very good defense at all. One of the worst defenses in football. And the Raiders belong down here at number 26. Number 25, I had the Tennessee Titans moving up 2 spots. So the Titans really had a nice win versus the Los Angeles Chargers. I actually picked them to win that game as well, so I'm pretty, kudos to me for that. But I just see the Chargers, and I see a team that can't really get it done. And the Titans have one of the best defenses in football, very good defensive line. I think they have the best run defense. Passing defense may not be as good as the running defense, but the passing defense is still good. You have playmakers, Kevin Byard. You still have playmakers all over that defense. You get lots of pressure. Ryan Tannehill looked all right in this one. He looked pretty good. Derrick Henry ran the ball pretty well. Tajay Spears even ran the ball pretty well. Chig actually made a few plays this game. It seemed like the Titans were getting the deep ball going. So the Titans move up 2 spots to 25 after beating the Chargers. Then you have the New York Giants at 24 moving down 2 spots. Actually, I know they won, but they really had to climb back against, as you see, the worst team in football. Many people have the Cardinals as the worst team even coming into this year. 99% of football fans, everyone would assume that the Cardinals are the worst team in football. Being down 21 to nothing, or 21 to nothing, or maybe it was 20 to nothing or 20 to 3, but regardless, being down 20 to 3, the Giants were the worst team for this first 6 quarters of the season. By far and away, they were the worst team and wasn't even close. The second half of that game, the offense really picks it up, but I think their offense and their defense is becoming very predictable. It's not the fact of, Mike Kafka or Wink Martindale being bad coordinators. I just think it's predictable. Daniel Jones and, the offense don't really have receivers. They're going to run the ball a lot, and Daniel Jones can run the ball really well. I think it's becoming predictable. And a defense, as I said before, they run a lot of man coverage, and with how athletic receivers again nowadays and all that, he likes to blitz. He's going to call his man coverage. Wake Martindale did not look, his defense didn't look very good for the most part. I just don't really see this Giants team making any big-time strides this year unless Daniel Jones and someone starts to step up on the offensive side of things. And Barkley's out for 2 or 3 weeks now, so that could be even worse. So the Giants down here at 24, very disappointing so far this year. Did not think they would be as bad as they have been, but they do pull out the win, but the Giants down here at 24, I moved them down 2 spots. It's more than fair. Number 23, the Minnesota Vikings moved down 6 spots. I think the Vikings are one of the better 0-2 teams in the NFL. The Vikings played the Buccaneers, and then they played them well. They did outplay the Buccaneers. It's just their turnovers bit them in the rear end. Same thing against the Eagles. They're against momentum at times when they had a chance to go and score some points, maybe go get something down the field, and they just cannot. They turn the ball over. Even after the defense got a few turnovers for them, and they couldn't stop the run. The defense is not very good. I will say Kirk Cousins is playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Up to week 2 right now. Not a week 3. We'll see how he continues to play, but I think Kirk Cousins has played like a top 5 quarterback so far. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson has looked great, even TJ Hawkinson. Other than that, man, the rest of this Vikings team is not really getting it done. The offensive line is banged up. They did just sign Dalton Risner, I think, so that's a good addition. Going to bring some depth, going to bring another, a decent starter to the Minnesota Vikings line. Defense just not very good. Harrison Smith, he looks old, man. It looks like Harrison Smith, there might be time for him to hang up the cleats, and that's sad because Smith is such a great player. He's been such a great player for so long, but it looks like Harrison Smith's time is coming up. Just in general, the Vikings defense not very good, and at the end of the day, I am saying that I do think they're a very good team, but they're 0-2. They lost 2 games in a row, so they're all the way down here at 23. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, one of the more disappointing teams as well in terms of record-wise. All you have is Justin Herbert. A game they should have won versus the Titans. You have a much better offense, and but the defense is horrible, allowing big plays. Ryan Tannehill, Treylon Burks, Chris Moore. The Titans receivers and Titans were getting big plays here and there, and they were running the ball really well. The Chargers offense couldn't really finish it. In overtime they go. I think it was like 3 and out. I don't remember what it was, but the Titans end up winning that in overtime. Is just not a good look, and it's not Justin Herbert's fault. The Chargers are failing Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is not failing the Chargers. Number 21, the New England Patriots. They're down 5 spots, so really rare. Last week I moved them up 3 spots, even though they lost to the Eagles. I thought they played a really good game, and just other teams fell, other teams rose. Just how the board played, but this week you go up against a high-powered Miami Dolphins offense, and you really struggle. And they try to keep things low, they try to keep things underneath them, and they did for the most part. But the Dolphins were able to run the ball pretty well. Tyreek Hill Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins just had too much for the Patriots, and they got to get that running game going. They struggled to get that running game going with Ramondre Stevenson. Got to get that going. That's the Patriots want to run the football. They don't want to pass the football 45, 50 times a game. So you want to get that run game going. But the Patriots down here at 21, they're 0-2. The last 2 games in a row, so they moved back down to 21. The Green Bay Packers moved down 6 spots from 14 to 20. This was their original spot before. This was their original spot before Week 1. They looked really good in the first half. They looked pretty dominant at one point. I thought the Packers were going to win this game. Absolutely not. The Arizona Cardinals. The Atlanta Falcons come back in this one, and the Falcons are looking like a good team, but the Packers should have won this one. Jordan Love making a few mistakes here and there. I don't think they really have any Jaden Reed making big plays here and there, Romeo Dubes, but you don't have that one guy that you can go to that Jordan Love has to go to. Like, he doesn't have that Devontae Adams. He doesn't have that Justin Jefferson, Chase. He doesn't have that one guy that he can go to, even Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. He doesn't have that one guy he could go to, and not having that guy can hurt. The Packers do have a slew of weapons, but you never know when they're going to be on. You never know if, one or two of them might be on. None of them might be on. The defense doesn't know who to cover, but, on the other side of things, if none of them are playing well, then you have no weapons, and, you need a good, consistent weapon to help Jordan Love. He looked all right. He did overthrow some passes. I think he could I think he could have a bit better ball placement. The Packers defense absolutely at fault as well, really struggling against Bijan Robinson and, that Packers offense in general, especially towards the end of the game. Packers down here at 20. Number 19, I have the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams really surprising us. Now, I know they lost, but I moved them up 4 spots, and it's very rare. And I know, this happened last week, the Patriots. I moved them up 3 spots for losing, but I moved the Rams up 4 spots for losing. But, the Rams have been playing much better football than we thought they were. Now, they did lose. They are 1-1, but I just think they move up because, as you see, other teams behind them just move down, which makes room for the Rams to move up. And they played a really tough game versus the Seahawks. They just flat out looked much better than the Seahawks. They really did a good job against the 49ers. Towards the end they couldn't really, take the win, and the 49ers pulled away, but the Rams really impressed me. They did have the lead at one point in that game. The Rams were really impressing me and showing me that they are a good football team, but still week 2, still early. A lot of crazy things happen, and by the time week 3, 4, and 5 coming around, teams are starting to get the tape out. Teams are, the defenses are starting to get in shape. And teams start coming into who they are. So it's still early, but they do have Matthew Stafford. They do have some weapons. Puka has been very good so far this season. Really nice filler for Cooper Kupp. And if Cooper Kupp comes back and this team is still playing the way they are, this Rams team can maybe make a push for the playoffs. And, in a way. So the Rams moving up 4 spots despite the loss to number 19. Number 18. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers move up 8 spots. Now, the Bucs are 2-0. They beat the Minnesota Vikings week 1, which, they definitely got outplayed, but the turnovers definitely helped them. Then you beat the Bears pretty good, in my opinion. I didn't think they struggled too much against the Bears. The defense played really well. The Buccaneers are looking like a very good football team. That defense is looking very good. The offense is, inconsistent, I think, but Baker Mayfield has looked pretty good. He has not looked bad. You have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. There's no reason why, a quarterback back there can't, at the very least, lead this team to be a decent offensive team. But with Baker Mayfield, you don't know where you can get from game to game. But so far, the Buccaneers are looking pretty good. They're 2-0. This may be one of the worst 2-0 teams, but I will say, their defense, it's a playmaking defense. They're going to get turnovers. It's a very good defense. Coming into this year, I said that the Buccaneers have a very good defense, very underrated defense, and, they're proving me right. You have Carlton Davis, Antoine Winfield, a very good defensive line, get lots of pressure, and the Buccaneers moving all the way up here to 18. I'm unsure if they're going to be this high throughout the entire year or if they'll keep on moving up. I could definitely see a scenario where, teams start figuring out the offense a little bit more and they start figuring out that defense a little bit maybe. But in the Buccaneers maybe not being as good as they're looking early on. As we know, we always have teams early on in the year that start really well. They stumble and find their ways to 2-0, 3-0, maybe even 4-0 records. But down the stretch, the better teams prevail. But currently they're 2-0, so they are moving up to 18. Number 17, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. They are 0-2. They are not looking good. They got absolutely smoked by the Browns. They got beat by the Ravens pretty good. Now, that game was close, but the Ravens really, it seemed like the Ravens had control of that entire game. Lamar Jackson, and, they ran the ball down the Bengals' throats the entire football game. Joe Burrow re-injured his calf. He hasn't been looking too good. Maybe Maybe that's why he hasn't been playing well. But nonetheless, the Bengals still move all the way down here. The defense has been struggling. Their offensive line is horrible. Can't get the ball to Jamar Chase. T. Higgins was a bright spot versus the Ravens, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals move all the way down to 17, and we'll see if Joe Burrow comes back. If he doesn't, I can see the Bengals to continue to move down this list. Number 16, I have the Washington Commanders. Now, this can definitely be one of the worst 2-0 teams. They can definitely be a pretender, not a contender. But, they're 2-0. They're winning football games. Maybe they shouldn't have won that game versus the Cardinals. They had to make a heroic comeback versus the Broncos. So they have to win in more convincing ways. But they did, they're 2-0. Sam Howell's looked really good. You have some good weapons. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. They can run the football. The offensive line looked a little bit better. The Commanders, I think the defense could look a lot better than it did this past week. But the Commanders are moving up to 16. All right, Commanders, I see you. I'm not sure if the Commanders are that good of a football team, but we'll see as the season goes on. Number 15, I have the New York Jets. The Aaron Rodgers-less Jets got absolutely demolished by the Dallas Cowboys. It would have been a much better game with Aaron Rodgers in there, in my opinion. It probably would have been. Zach Wilson just not looking very good. Looking like the Zach Wilson that we know. The defense can only do so much. The defense, there's only so much a defense can do in today's game. If defense, if your offense can't score any points, you can't get any first downs, you can't help your defense rest, then they're going to have a long day. The Dallas Cowboys just pounded the football. Tony Pollard, Dak Prescott did what he needed to do, and the New York Jets just did not have themselves a good day. Now, they did beat the Bills. I was really impressive without Zach Wilson. But we'll see where the Jets continue to go for the rest of the season. Number 14, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers did maybe get away with that one. I don't like to say that teams get lucky, but this is a football team that will create turnovers with the defense. On the defensive line, you have Highsmith, you have TJ Watt, two incredible defensive ends, some of the best in the league on the same defensive line. Very scary to play, and you have Cameron Hayward on that D-line as well. Minka went down, but you know what? They won the game early on. They got the pick six. They got the fumble late in the game. And, the offense really struggled in the second half. Didn't really get much done. But I will say they did win the game. They're 1-1. They got dominated in week 1 by the Niners. They come out in week 2, and I believe they're 21. I believe they have 21 straight wins on Monday Night Football. Is that it? And then they have a lot of, they have pretty big wins against the Browns as well. So Steelers keep that going. They move up 5 spots to number 14. Number 13, the Atlanta Falcons. They move up 8 spots. This Atlanta Falcons team is a very talented team. I honestly think this is one where so far from weeks 1 and 2, they look like one of the more talented teams in the NFL. They might be a quarterback away. They have a pass rush. They have a superstar cornerback in A.J. Terrell. They have good safeties. They have Jesse Bates. The offensive line is good enough. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. You have weapons in Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Matt Collins. And they all showed versus the Packers, especially late in the game. Desmond Ridder and in that offense found a way to win that game. Now, is Ridder the answer? I'm not sure. It's only his second start of 2023. He hasn't played a lot of football yet. So we'll see if Ridder can get better. He's very athletic. He's on the ball deep a couple times. Desmond Ridder's looking all right. I'm not sold on him. I don't know if he's the guy yet. But, if he is, this Falcons team can be looking at a pretty good team for quite some time. They have some playmakers all over the team. I think this is a very good Falcons team. Very good Falcons team. Are they quarterback away? We don't know. But the defense locked up towards the end. They got it figured out. They found a way to win. I'm impressed with the Falcons so far this year. I'm impressed. Number 12, the Detroit Lions. They moved down 1 spot. Going into this game versus the Seahawks, I was saying this could be a trap game. They're coming off a huge win in Kansas City on the opener. The hype is sky high. I can see them losing to the Seahawks, and that they did. Now, Jared Goff and the offense was incredible. The offense was great, but it kind of looked like the same old defense from last year. They played a good offense. I'm not saying they didn't play good offense last week in Mahomes, but you see the Seahawks have some weapons at receiver. They have guys that can get open. They have guys that can consistently catch the football. They're smart, good route runners. They got speed. Well, the Chiefs wide receivers do have speed, but mainly they're more reliable and they're just much better playmakers than what the Chiefs have in, Tony, Rashee Rice, Scott. I will say Sky Moore stepped up this past week, but not enough. But it seemed like this Lions defense really struggled, and they lost James Houston for the year. Or no, I don't think it was for the year, but they did lose him. So hopefully he can get healthy. I don't remember what it is, but that's a big loss. He's an explosive edge rusher. With the Detroit Lions sitting here at number 12, not too bad. I didn't feel the need to move them down too much. It's one game, and they found a way to fight back in that game. They look good for a decent amount of the game. It's just that defense not looking too good in their turnovers. They had 3 turnovers. Got to clean those turnovers up. Number 11, the New Orleans Saints are at 11, up 4 spots. Now, do I think the Saints are one of the better teams in the NFL? No, but I think they're a good football team. They have a very good defense. They have playmaking defense, good cornerbacks, so you get pressure on your quarterback. But their offensive line's not looking very good. It could just be the Panthers' defensive line, which is looking very strong. You have Derek Brown, Brian Burns. There's a lot of, Shaq Thompson. There are some guys on that line that are very good. Shaq Thompson more of a linebacker, but can rush as well. So, the Panthers' defensive line is very good. So, if the Saints, play some high-powered offensive teams and they have a good defensive line and they have a decent defense, I can see the Saints having a hard time being a good football team this year and beating some of those high-powered teams. There's not one spot you look at the Saints team and you're like, wow, they're great. But, there's not one spot you look at and you're like, yeah, that's a need. Other than receiver, I will say they have some pretty good playmakers at receiver. They have Thomas, Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I do like the receiver room. I like Jawad Johnson. Oh, excuse me. The New Orleans Saints move up 4 spots. They're winning. They're 2-0. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Titans in week 1. Hopefully they can get that run game going. That run game hasn't looked great, but the Panthers and Titans do have some good defensive lines and run defenses, it seems, so far this year. So Derek Carr does not look good under pressure. He has not looked great. Seems like the receivers are still trying to get on the same page, especially him, Michael Thomas, and just trying to get used to each other. Although Derek Carr has not looked very good, the Saints team has, this offense has been very bad in the red zone. So they're going to have to improve that red zone play if they want to, be able to beat some of those better teams because, it seems like they're moving the ball and they're not having that difficult of a hard time moving the ball. But once they get into the red zone, they can't convert. They can't get it. And I feel like that's always been a thing with Derek Carr's game. I could be wrong, but I feel like that has always been one of Derek Carr's things. He struggles in the red zone. He's inaccurate at times. He can get frustrated. If you pressure Derek Carr, he goes from being a very good quarterback to maybe a below average or average quarterback. He's not very good under pressure. So, we'll see if the Saints can continue to win. If they do, they will continue to rise. Number 10, I have the Seattle Seahawks moving up 8 spots. So 8 spots might be quite a bit for the Seahawks. They beat the Lions, the Lions beat the Chiefs. The Lions looking like a very good football team, but I thought I just needed to see the Seahawks bounce back, the offense bounce back with Geno Smith. The offense looked elite again, but it could be an offense in which they really take advantage of the poor defenses, and the Lions defense did look like that in week 1. So this could be a team that really takes advantage of some bad defensive play, and that could be where the Seahawks win. And where the Seahawks win those games. So they could, be a team that matches up poorly against bad defenses, and then those are the games that they can't really win, and those are the defenses that their offense really struggles against. We'll see, but for now they're 1-1. They beat the Detroit Lions, a very good, that was a very entertaining game. They outscored them. The defense, made a couple of plays, and the Seahawks are up here at 8. Number 9, the Jacksonville Jaguars move up 1. So I know they lost, but just the way the board fell, the Jaguars moved up 1. And Trevor Lawrence in that offense has to find a way to get things going. Trevor Lawrence has been inconsistent once again. As I've said this entire offseason, when Trevor Lawrence is bad, when and he's not playing well, he's not good. He's like Carson Wentz bad, but when he is good, when he's on his game, he's absolutely one of the best in the league. That's the issue. He can't find that consistency. He didn't really have, the offensive line to really be there from. The offensive line isn't great. The scheme is good. He gets the ball out quick, but, he's been inaccurate. He struggled a little bit. But, the defense is looking pretty good. Looked pretty good against. I know the Colts did have 31 points, but the defense was all right. The defense is going to get better as the season goes on. They did very good versus Mahomes. I know they lost, but just the way the board fell, the Jaguars move up to 9. Number 8, Cleveland Browns moved on 2 spots from 6 to 8. So, Nick Chubb goes down. A horrible injury. So, I'm so upset for Nick Chubb. He's a great human being. He's so humble, always quiet, just puts his head down and plays, and one of the best at his position as well, if not the best. He goes down. How is Jerome Ford gonna fill in? He looked all right. Maybe Jerome Ford can fill in and be a good back for the Browns. He's not gonna be Nick Chubb-esque. I think we all know that, but maybe he can be a decent back and he just get the job done and be good enough. But it will definitely hurt this Browns offense and the team in general. But the Browns defense is still elite. It's a very good defense. I will say, I think the Steelers had 2 defensive touchdowns. I didn't finish the game watching it, but I'm pretty sure T.J. Watt and Highsmith did end the game. I don't know if they took it for 6 or if they just if they just forced a turnover. But I know those 2 were involved. But yeah, I think the Browns are still a good football team. They're still trying to find their footing. Deshaun Watson's still coming back, so the Browns move back 2 spots. The Bills move up 5 spots from 12 to 7. The Bills got back on track versus the Raiders. A very poor defense. Josh Allen looked much better. The offensive line looked better. They ran the ball pretty well. They stopped the run really well. The defense just looked very good. In the beginning of the game, the first drive did not, especially for the defense, didn't look good. And the Bills went, I think they went 3 and out, or, they just didn't get anything. They punted it, and it wasn't looking good. It was looking like, oh, no, the Bills are, from last week, they're coming over this week. But no, the Bills dominated the Raiders, and they move up 5 spots to number 7. Number 6, the Baltimore Ravens move up 1 spot. The Browns moved back a couple of spots, and the Ravens beat the Bengals. Now, I know the Bengals aren't a very good football team right now, even with Joe Burrow saying that, he hurt his calf, he re-injured his calf, the offensive line wasn't playing well, the run defense wasn't playing well. Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense ran all over this Bengals defense. Ravens up here at 6. Number 5, I have the Philadelphia Eagles, so I think they are the worst team out of these top 5 teams right now. When you go and you have to rank the top 5 teams, the best of the best, you have to nitpick. And that is why the Eagles are down here at 5. So the Eagles, they have not been anywhere near as impressive as they were last year on both sides of the football. The Kirk Cousins and that Minnesota Vikings offense really took it to them towards the end of the game. But Justin Jefferson making some big plays, Jordan Addison making some big plays. Now I know they had some guys out, but it seemed like they also struggled against Mac Jones, and in that offense, and the Dolphins didn't struggle as much. But those are two totally different teams. I don't really compare that. But I think it's an observation worth noting that the Eagles defense, and the offense still isn't going. I do think Jalen Hurts in this offense can't get going. He is missing Shane Steichen, and Brian Johnson's offense has been pretty stale, pretty boring. But he did finally get the ball to Dallas Goedert. And you still have yet for AJ Brown to get going. DeAndre Swift look incredible. Now can he stay healthy? Even now with Kenneth Gainwell coming back in the mix, will Swift still be the main guy? What's going to go on with that? But the Philadelphia Eagles down here at 5, move down 2 spots from 3, move out of the top 4, and number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know why I put down that they moved down a spot, but they're actually in the same spot as last year, or as last week. So the Kansas City Chiefs at number 4, that defense has been elite. that defense has been very good. Now in the beginning of the game, and at some points in the game, it seemed like Trevor Lawrence was really driving the football down the field, and this Jaguars offense was figuring it out. But then all of a sudden that Chiefs defense says, no. That Chiefs defense has been impressive. They've been elite. The thing with the Chiefs is the offense has really been struggling. They yet have to find that guy that's going to step up. Sky Moore had a good game. I think Justin Watson is playing really well for them. They got Travis Kelce back. Eric Gray has looked good at tight end. I think maybe they should have maybe not as many receivers out there and keep their talented tight ends out there. And Eric Gray, Travis Kelce, some very good tight ends. Keep them tight ends out there. Those big body guys who you can count on to catch the football and be where you need to be. Because these other guys have not been getting it done. Patrick Mahomes has been doing what he can do, and the Chiefs down here are 4. Number 3, I have the Miami Dolphins moving up from 5 to 3. They jump in the Chiefs. They're basically swapping with the Philadelphia Eagles, and this Miami Dolphins football team has been quite the impressive team. They've been pretty good on offense, to say the least. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You have Raheem Mostert, and that run game got going last game. And I feel like if you get the run game going, if the Dolphins get the run game going, goodbye. That's it. Good night, Irene. You're not doing anything after that. I'm just saying, the defense has looked all right. They did struggle, against the Chargers a little bit, but the Chargers have a lot of weapons. Justin Herbert's a very good quarterback. But Tua is 4 or 5-0 against the Patriots now. The Miami Dolphins up here at number 3, playing like one of the best football teams in the NFL currently, in my opinion. Number 2 and 1. 1A and 1B for me. The 49ers have been an incredible football team. They had a little scare against the Rams, and if they lost that, they might be moving back to 3, and the Dolphins might be 2, and the Cowboys might be 1. But if the Niners do pull out, they do pull out of that game with the W. They do win it, and it's a division rival. Division rivals always play tough, and the Rams might actually be a much better team than we have expected to be. And then you have the Cowboys at 2. Completely dominated the Zach Wilson Jets. I know it's it's Zach Wilson and such, but they still dominated them. Cowboys only have allowed 7-10 points so far this year. 0 points to the Giants. They've outscored their opponents 70-10, 70 to. I don't remember how much the Jets scored. It was 10 or 7, but regardless, 70 to whatever it was. The Dallas Cowboys have been very impressive. They're one of the. It's them and the Niners. Both of those teams are the most impressive right now. It's not just them just dominating their opponents. They're winning in different ways. The Cowboys winning defensively and the Cowboys winning offensively last week. Both of these teams could win in different ways. And the Niners winning in a sloppy game proves to me that, I think when you win, when you're not your best and you find a way to win that football game, that's a big W, and it shows a lot about your football team. So these are my NFL power rankings heading into week 3. Let me know what you would change. What do you think about this list? Even the Cardinals belong at 32 still. I think so. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Do you think moving the Miami Dolphins and swapping them with the Eagles was a good choice? It just tells me, I'm just seeing that the Miami Dolphins are a much more electric football team right now. They're playing better. I still have the Chiefs ahead of the Eagles. But we'll see as the season goes on. Can the Eagles continue? Can they get better? Will the Niners and the Cowboys remain as dominant as they are? Can the Dolphins, Tua, and that offense remain dominant all year long? Can the Bills keep their momentum going? There's a lot. There's a lot going on. Can the Chargers and the Vikings finally get some wins under their belt? Are the Falcons really that good? That's all I got for you guys today, though. Thank you for tuning in to the JDW Sports Talk Show Power Rankings. We do these every single week, so make sure you stick around. Make sure you like, subscribe. Put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos, so you don't miss any power rankings. We have weekly predictions every single week as well. I'll either get them out tomorrow or Thursday. Probably Thursday, but that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning into the JDW Sports Talk Show where every fan is welcome. This is JDW signing off.